morning, Brother Mike's prayer and the opportunity we've had to partake of the Lord's Supper. We welcome you. Thank you for being here. We look forward to a study of God's Word this morning. I want to introduce you to a fella. I don't know him. I've never met him. I don't know that much about him, but the story I want to tell you about today is one that's worth hearing, and I want you to know just a little bit about the man by the name of Paul Butler. Paul Butler was a man who had no authority. He had no money, but he did have a purpose. He noticed something where he lived, and he wanted to make a difference. Two characteristics that he had that I really like: he was motivated and he was committed. And those are two really important qualities if you want to accomplish something good: motivated and committed. You see, what he did, he went around to the schools and he wrote and had them to do puppet shows about his subject. He printed t-shirts that were going to promote what it was that he wanted people to know about and the things that he wanted them to care about. He talked to musicians and he said, "Hey, I need you to write songs about this. And not only write songs, but I want you to perform them, and I want everybody to hear this message with music." He even talked to preachers. He said, "I want y'all to preach about this. I want you to develop lessons about my subject, and I want you to challenge your churches in regard to what he had on his mind." The bottom line for Paul Butler was this: we are the kind of people who should care. We are the kind of people who should care. Paul Butler lived on the island of St. Lucia. Now, I've not been there. Probably some of you have. I see these cruise ships that are there. And I imagine some of you who are cruisers may have been there, may have enjoyed the beauty of the country there. If you're interested in a little bit of the history about it, then you can read a little bit about it there. The two things that I thought were important was that it was an area of 238 square miles, and the population of this little island here was 174,000. Now, here was one man who had a purpose. He was motivated, he was committed, and his challenge was to change the hearts and the minds of 174,000 people. You know, as you and I see those odds today, as we look at 1 in 174,000, it would almost seem impossible that one man could change the hearts or change the thoughts of that many people, wouldn't it? Usually it takes more than just one voice. We see Paul Butler employed other voices. He employed puppet shows, and he employed t-shirts. He employed musicians, and he employed ministers. He didn't pay them, he just asked for their help, so that the voice would not just be his, but it would be many, but the message would be the same. What was Paul Butler's mission? What was it that he saw such a need to go to such great lengths to see if he could change the hearts and the minds of the people of St. Lucia, 174,000? What was his mission? Well, there are a lot of things that we could be concerned about today, aren't there? We could be concerned about those who are hungry, and we rightfully should be. We could be concerned about those who are homeless, and we rightfully should be. We could be concerned about a number of different things in our culture, but in his culture, this is what he chose. He chose this little bird, the St. Lucian parrot. You see, this bird was native to St. Lucia. And he had noticed, and through whatever research that he had done, he had noticed that these birds were hunted. These birds were trapped. These birds were even being eaten by the locals there. And in fact, their habitat was being decimated. And it got to the point where there was only 100 of these birds left. Now, we could talk about it from this way. Somebody could say, okay, who cares? I mean, it's just a bird. And so what if there's only just 100 left? And I'm sure that there were a lot of people who heard Paul Butler's message who were saying, so what? So what's the big deal if they become extinct? So what about all of that? Paul Butler would not be discouraged. Again, puppet shows were performed, T-shirts were printed, musicians sang songs, preachers preached sermons about the St. Lucian parrot. One man who had no authority, who had no money, but he had a purpose. He had a purpose, and he was motivated and committed, and his theme was always the same: we are the kind of people who should care. That project began several years ago. Paul Butler didn't want to have a picture by himself. He wanted to have a picture with this St. Lucian parrot. And I guess you're probably wondering, well, as we look at this theme, we are the kind of people who should care, did it work? And that's a pretty simple statement, isn't it? We are the kind of people who should care. Well, the question is, did it work? Well, thankfully, yes, it did. From the mind and the thoughts of one man, the population of the St. Lucian parrot increased 600%. The population of the St. Lucian parrot increased 600%. Now, again, that may not excite you so much. I don't know what your feeling is about St. Lucian parrots. And really, the St. Lucian parrot, for the purposes of this lesson, is beside the point. The point is, one man made a difference. One man motivated the majority of 174,000 people to the extent that the majority of them stopped hunting them, stopped trapping them, stopped eating them, and stopped decimating their habitat to the degree that they had a 600% increase in their population. I say, good job. Good job. As we think about that mentality, as we think about the mentality of